If you got sick a lot as a kid, or you still get sick more than people around you, there might be a reason no doctor ever told you about. It's not something in your food. It's not something in the air. It happened years ago, and it's still working on your body right now. Picture a kid lying in bed at night, listening through the wall. Maybe it's shouting. Maybe it's silence that feels worse than shouting. The next morning, that kid gets up, packs a bag, and goes to school like nothing happened. Nobody at school knows. Nobody at home talks about it either. That kid just learns to carry it. If that sounds familiar, even a little, stay with me for the next few minutes. Because what happened in scenes like that doesn't just fade away when we grow up. It can quietly rewire the body. And in the mid-1990s, two researchers proved it with hard numbers, not guesses. Here's why you can trust what I'm about to tell you. In the 1990s, a doctor named Vincent Felitti at Kaiser Permanente teamed up with a researcher named Robert Anda at the CDC. Together they studied over 17,000 adults. They asked each person a simple question. Growing up, did you go through any of these hard experiences? Things like abuse, neglect, a parent struggling with addiction or mental illness, watching your parents split up, or violence at home. Every yes added 1 point to what they called an ACE score, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experience. What they found surprised almost everyone, including the doctors running the study. First, this wasn't rare. About 2 out of every 3 adults they studied had at least one of these experiences, and roughly 1 in 8 had 4 or more. This wasn't a small, unlucky group. This was most of the room. Second, and this is the part that changed how doctors think about health, the higher someone's ACE score, the worse their health looked decades later. Not just their mental health, their physical health. People with 4 or more ACEs were 2.5 times more likely to develop serious lung disease, 2.5 times more likely to get hepatitis, 4.5 times more likely to struggle with depression. And their risk of suicide wasn't just a little higher, it was 12 times higher. For people with 7 or more ACEs, their lifetime risk of lung cancer tripled, and their risk of heart disease, the #1 killer in the country, was 3.5 times higher. Now maybe you're thinking, okay, but that makes sense. A rough childhood pushes people towards smoking, drinking, bad habits, and those habits cause the disease. That's fair to wonder. But here's the twist. Even people who never smoked, never drank, never touched a risky habit in their life still showed this same pattern. So something else had to be going on. That something is stress itself and how it changes a developing body. Think about what happens if you're walking through a forest and suddenly see a bear. Your brain fires off a signal, your heart pounds, your muscles tense, your whole body gets ready to run or fight. That reaction is supposed to be short. The bear leaves or you get away and your body calms back down. But imagine the bear doesn't leave. Imagine it shows up again every single night in your own house. That same stress system fires over and over with no break. In a child whose brain and body are still being built, that repeated alarm doesn't just pass through. It leaves marks. Brain scans show real, physical differences in the area that handles fear. The part of the brain responsible for focus and self-control gets held back. Even the immune system and hormone system get thrown off balance. This isn't a personality trait or a character flaw. It's biology responding to a threat that never really went away. For a long time, doctors treated this either as a social issue to hand off to a caseworker, or a mental health issue to hand off to a therapist. Nobody was treating it as a medical issue that belongs in a regular checkup. That's finally starting to change. Some clinics now screen kids for ACEs the same way they'd screen for lead exposure or check a vaccine record, because catching it early opens the door to real support. Home visits, care coordination, nutrition help, mental health care, and yes, medication when it's needed. The goal isn't to label a child. It's to lower the dose of stress before it does more damage, and to treat the body's real, physical response to what it's been through. Here's the part that might surprise you most. This research was first done in a group that was mostly white and mostly college educated. This isn't only a story about poverty or one type of neighborhood. It's a story about being human. If you think back to your own life, or people close to you, a parent who drank too much, a household where nobody talked about feelings, a home where things got scary sometimes, this touches more people than we like to admit. Maybe we don't talk about it because it feels easier to believe it happened somewhere else, to someone else. So here's what this means for you. If your health has felt harder to manage than it should be, if you've wondered why you get sick more, or why stress seems to hit your body harder than it hits other people, this might be part of the answer. And knowing that isn't a life sentence. It's information. Doctors now understand the mechanism well enough to start interrupting it at almost any age. That's the hopeful part. A problem you can name and explain is a problem you can actually treat. If this made you think of your own childhood or someone you know, tell me in the comments. You're not the only one carrying something like this, and talking about it is often the first step to loosening its grip. If you want to understand more about how early stress shapes the adult body, subscribe, because that's exactly what we're covering next.